Australian Survivor specialists Alexa and McKenna are back. We are recapping the 18th and 19th episodes of Australian Survivor Season 2. And man, we have a great 18th episode. The 19th is a bit of a collateral damage kind of episode, but we haven't watched an auction in any form of Survivor in years.
10 seasons.
It feels really, really good to get a great auction.
It was such a good time. Such a good time.
And I know that neither of us have watched other seasons of Australian Survivor, but I'm curious if the blessing that Luke received is something that consistently happens, because I loved it, and I think there is no better person to have won that advantage than Luke.
Yeah, if it was gonna be someone, it's gotta be Luke.
Yeah, he was
that character.
So before the auction, which is obviously this is the majority of the episode. So you and I had talked last week. We were like, Henry he's getting cocky. He's getting so obvious that he's got to be the one. And his every single confessional that pretty much every single confessional that we saw from him this episode, I don't know if you noticed this, he was in the exact same position wearing the exact same thing. And every single time he was sounding real cocky. He said, I'm cruising, like I'm in the driver's seat, I'm killing it. And it was a little obvious that he was going home, but it was satisfying. I think it was still a very satisfying ending.
Yes, I was very happy Henry went home, because I was just over him. I was over him as a character. It didn't seem like he was growing anymore. Right. He just kind of was up and plateaued. And
yes,
I was tired of his character.
Yeah, absolutely. And important to note that was day 39. The day before the
so he's the winner of American Survivor.
You know what? He sure is. I'm sure he would do great on American Survivor. But let's get to this auction, because this is one of the best auctions ever. I wrote down everything that they won, how much they spent, what they got. Leads off with a covered item, which is weird. That doesn't really happen much in American Survivor either. Mm-hmm. Luke purchases for $320, and he gets the exact same thing that every other person gets. So every single time someone gets something, Luke also gets it, which is insane.
So there's a strategic factor in that, actually, that, let's not buy this so Luke doesn't have it as well. So like with Peter's challenge advantage. Now, if say Lockie got the I get everything paper, would people be more deterred to buy the advantage because Lockie now also gets this advantage?
I wonder, because most of these were food and drinks and fun stuff. Obviously, the one at the end, I would say, is the one that's the most consequential, because it ends up to have
the Champagne Alliance.
The Champagne Alliance, which is the best alliance name ever.
We all know Michelle made it.
Michelle has never been happy.
Yeah.
But yeah, you bring up a good point. Like if Peter is the one who wins that, like, do they still get these things? I would assume yes, because especially when it comes to an advantage, like you personally also need it really badly. But that is a good point. If it's someone like Lockie, who's already really good in challenges, that could be what they need.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the most Australian thing ever. The next thing is smashed avocado, and Ziggy buys it for $500 immediately.
Yeah, that was the weirdest thing though. This auction, everyone was just going $500, $500, $500. Didn't matter. There was no bid war really.
Yeah, there really wasn't. It would happen a little bit near the end, but it was more so just because people were running out of money. And it got to a point where it was just like, who has any dollars? And like, and that was like, who was bidding. But I mean, for what it's worth, like, I know that's something that would never be on American Survivor, but I feel like avocado toast is a very, very good thing to have. I think having avocados and some carbs is probably really good for the body.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an avocado fan, so like, I'll take a pass on that dish, but
so if you wait, well, and we'll get to Luke, but at this point, Luke has Luke's got an avocado toast. All is well. Next up, we have a cheesecake, a
full-on cheesecake,
a straight up cheesecake. Henry purchases it for $100. And then they also get champagne.
No, he purchases it for $500 once he bids $100. Oh, yes. And then he brings out the champagne and is like, "Oh, that's selling me.
That is
$500."
I love champagne almost as much as Michelle does. That it's an absolutely horrible business decision to spend $400 on one glass of champagne after you get an entire cheesecake.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So now, running tally, Luke has avocado toast, which he looks to be about half done with at this point,
and orange juice. I think orange juice was the drink.
Yeah,
he got orange juice. Yeah,
kind of random. And then an entire cheesecake and a glass of champagne.
Mm-hmm.
All like doable at this point. I could not do that, but Luke definitely can.
Then I think the best auction item, a paper straw. Like, come on now.
$500
what
paper
more
straw
can you want?
Yeah. Yeah. And who bought that?
Sarah, hot model Sarah bought a coconut. Stupidly, or she didn't even wait for anything to be even announced to be uncovered. She was just saw the plate and was like, I'm here for it. And I'm like, Sarah, please.
And that timed up pretty well with when like the troll item comes, because it's usually like every other or every third, and it was covered. It was guaranteed to be the bad one.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the poor thing is like Courtney Yates level skinny at this point.
Yeah.
And for her to get that, and then Luke gets the coconut and he gets a straw.
Yeah. And he's just like, this is pretty nice. And Sarah's just like, yeah, screw you, Luke. Have a nice day.
I gotta wash down my champagne, with something.
Yeah.
So then we have, I forget if this is covered or uncovered. It's a Mexican feast.
It's uncovered because Lockie loves burritos. And then Michelle was like, "Ooh, a margarita."
Yeah. The margarita did come separately, but obviously like you can't, this happens every time. You can't have chips and guac or any kind of Mexican food without there being a margarita. That is one thing I would like try to be smart and get like the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. If there was a margarita, I would give all my money and get it. It's just like that is like the one thing that I can mock these people all day. I would do that. At this,
I don't drink, so like,
see, you're
margarita
good.
is great.
And we don't need avocados.
Yeah.
Coconut milk with the straw wasn't the worst call, McKenna.
Yeah.
They draw rocks and Lockie wins. Michelle is not happy. Luke now is the running tally of the avocado toast, one glass of champagne, an entire cheesecake, a Mexican feast, and a margarita. He is feeling himself right now.
Did you say the coconut?
I did not. You're right. I forgot. That really puts him over the edge. And then we get to the sentimental part, which kind of sucks because this is where we've seen Sarah kind of shine a little bit. Sarah's always been the one who's kind of, like missing home, always talking about home. Tara buys it for $500 and it's a phone call home.
We also see Tara always like, my kids as well. So like if anyone was going to get it, I feel like they would have let Tara, because they could have bid against her. Yeah. They could have bid against her and battled her out for it like Lockie and Michelle did with the burrito. But
and she like, as much as Henry is moonlighting as a yoga instructor, she is allegedly a stay-at-home mom and not a barrel racer. Bull rider?
Barrel racer,
right? Because there have been two barrel racers on Survivor.
Yeah, Sarah Dawn Thomas.
So she gets the phone call home. She calls her mother and her kids. It's very emotional. And then what's really exciting is that Luke also gets this conversation. And we had seen this, happening with Luke too, where Luke has talked about his wife and his kids. So that was a really good, that was a good moment. I know that Tara has kind of been the punching bag of this season, but it felt good to see her get.
Well, now that Annalise is gone. Is gone, she became the punching bag. Because, Annalise got the random, like, one-off hits. At least they knew who Tara was.
Yeah, exactly. So then, next up is Covered. And Jericho spends $200 on this, and he gets a burger, fries, and a soda, which I think is the best deal so far.
Apart from for $200, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
but
apart from the phone call home.
Yeah, the I don't know, like I'd always steer away from the burger because like I know it's a lot of protein and goodness and delicious, but it's gonna wreck your insides.
And the fries and a soda. That's like a fat soda too.
Yeah, so like I'd go more toward the fish, the chicken, the like something that's not gonna wreck your insides. Again, I am not 39 days on an island starving.
Played an entire game of Survivor starving.
Yeah. So I have no like stake in this, but a big meaty steak is not something I would try to force myself not to go for that, even though if that's something I really want.
Definitely.
I don't want to be taken out of the game for constipation. Like
hashtag gastrointestinal
severe gastrointestinal
right,
distress.
It was severe. Yes, it was not regular. It was severe.
Yeah.
Next up, Peter spends $400 on an immunity challenge advantage. And at this point, I wrote ... Where is Tessa? Tessa has not said anything. She has not bid. I don't even think she's bid on anything at this point, which I find interesting because Tessa isn't like, she's not totally locked in anywhere.
She said something like right in the beginning that's, ooh, I want like spaghetti or a burger or something like that. And then because I was thinking to myself, oh, not ice cream, because that's what you wanted a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Like all you wanted was ice cream. So
yes, which ends up working out well because for the final one, Tessa spends $320, the biggest steal of the night. She gets a night away. She gets spa. She gets pizza and chocolate and champagne. And she takes Michelle, which becomes generally controversial. And then the best part is someone is like, wait, does Luke come too? And he's like, hell yeah, he does. And Luke like loses his mind.
Yeah, I mean, also one of my favorite moves is Jericho being like, well, she's going to beat me anyway. Like, why bid up? But I am $300.
I thought that was great. And I would have done the exact same thing. So what do you think about the choice to bring Michelle instead of Sarah?
Well, my choice is always to pick Sarah. But
yeah, of course, yes. Michelle instead of somebody else.
Yeah. I can see why Tessa did it because Michelle kind of has her fingers a lot of places, and I guess for some reason people like Michelle.
I'm not sure if they do.
Then why not bring Sarah?
I don't know. I mean, maybe Sarah
has the pull places.
Maybe that's the thing, though. Maybe it's too obvious that you're trying to make a move if you bring Sarah. But
everyone was like, she's making a move with Michelle, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. Because her reasoning was that Michelle wasted her $500, but Sarah also wasted her $500.
Right. I mean, Michelle, I guess, wasted a little bit more because Sarah got at least a coconut out of it, but...
yeah, I mean, that's like an eighth of her body weight right there. So, this is the first important point where the rest of the episode goes, because at this point, Sarah is very pissed, and I don't think she's faking it. I think she is visibly and genuinely upset that she does not get to go on this after getting a coconut with a straw.
Yeah, for sure.
So we go over, and Michelle has a great quote where it's nighttime at this point. And Michelle in a confessional says that the way that she prepared for Survivor was by getting a manicure, a pedicure, and a spray tan. You don't need a spray tan. You'll be out there for 3 days and you'll get tan.
Yeah, or extremely burnt.
I thought that was unbelievable. I remember people made fun of Sierra Dawn Thomas because she had her nails done, but I
was focused on the eyebrows. The tattooed black eyebrows over her blonde eyebrows. It's like that's what I was.
Yeah. I just thought that was an unbelievable quote because I don't think anybody would ever admit that proudly.
Michelle would.
Michelle sure would. Mm-hmm. So what do you think about this whole spa situation? This is a big turning point for the episode.
Yeah, I mean, it formed a group. Maybe not a group that's gonna stay, but a group nonetheless. And it got them to vote Henry out of this game, and it was great.
Yeah,
It was a great move.
Sure was. And Tessa actually says that Michelle is an emotional voter, and that was why she brought her. I think she correctly assumed that Sarah would be pissed, but Sarah's a very smart voter, and she's been with Michelle long enough that she knows that Michelle would have been an emotional, angry voter at Tess. At Tessa.
Yeah.
So this is another thing that gets big. Michelle tells Tessa and Luke about Henry's idol. I want to, and this does go in episode 19. I will give Michelle the credit for coming up with this idea. I think it falls more so on Luke for actually pulling it off, but this was Michelle's idea from what we saw, in my mind.
Yeah, so like I'll give it to Michelle for the idea, but I feel like the execution is with Jericho and Sarah. Because
Jericho?
Well, because Sarah had the whole thing with Jericho being like, all right, so Henry has an idol. And Jericho's like, yeah, he showed it to me. We found it together. And she's like, no, he found it before he left and slipped you the clue to throw you on a wild goose chase. So that
I think that goes on there. I think Jericho is being like strictly reactionary there. But
if they don't flip together, like, and go the other way to vote out Peter, if they voted out Peter, like, I feel like Michelle, Lockie, and whoever were all locked on Henry.
Yeah.
But Sarah and Jericho were kind of in the middle of what do we do here.
And I do wonder, because the timing is really well done here, because we're still there's a spa for like half the episode. So we're at the spa. They're starting to talk about it. And then they cut over to Sarah and they do a little like switcheroo on us. And Sarah is pissed and like Pete's piling on. Like everyone is just like piling on and trying to get Sarah to go whichever way is going to benefit them for the next vote. And you think that at least I genuinely think that like Sarah is going to make a decision based off of this. We cut back. We see like visually #Champagne Alliance. That's something that we don't get when you watch CBS All Access. And everyone's all in on except for Luke. Luke doesn't like it because it's not his idea. And at least he admits it now.
Yeah.
But then we get back to camp and it's kind of a hard cut of Sarah saying that she's not actually mad and she wants to actively work with Tessa. And at this point, I'm curious if these two ideas came up separate from each other and just the right people happened to be together, so they merged, or if this was something that had been a conversation that's been going on.
Well, I also feel like you have 3 people of 3 sets of 2 in the reward. So they just brought their other 2s with them, and then there's the Champagne Alliance.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
So you have Michelle who brought Sarah, Tessa who brought Pete, and Luke who brought Jericho, and they were all like, all right, we're voting this way.
So Sarah goes to Jericho and you see his wheels turning where he's like, no. Henry and I found this idol together. And Sarah did a fantastic job of convincing him that Henry had that idol for a while. And I think that's something that wouldn't always be an easy convince. But I think Jericho and Sarah, as we've now seen, they sort of have their own relationship independent of Jericho and Luke. So I think there is some really pre-established trust there.
Yeah. And I feel like if Jericho had some shady feelings before, like now that was confirmed.
Definitely.
So him being like, how did Henry find it so fast? I've been looking for forever. And now Sarah brings up, he slipped you a clue that he already had that.
Yeah.
Then that's like even more of a confirmation. Oh, Henry's shady.
Right. So at this point, a lot of people are in on this. We've got the 3. We've got Tessa, Michelle, and Luke are loosely together on this, and Sarah and Jericho are together on this. We haven't really heard anyone else's thoughts yet, but we know that Pete is going to vote that whichever way Tessa's going to vote.
And he's not going to vote for himself because he's the other vote.
Exactly. We don't really know where like the Lockie situation is with Henry and Ziggy too. Ziggy, who is like a huge part of past 2 episodes, is barely around. So let's get to this immunity challenge. So This is another one that Phil and I have done.
Yes.
We weren't on a ramp, but we were on like the flat, like a little flat platform. It is also very hard. And holding it is always better to hold it with your knuckles pointing up instead of your knuckles pointing down, which is why.
See, I was thinking
the half and half.
So if it's like flipping one way, you still have control of it with the other hand.
That's a good idea. Did you notice anyone doing that?
No, but that's just always been my thought ever since seeing it on Survivor, like American Survivor. Because do it the half and half.
Most people do the wrist up, which you don't have a lot of power for when you lose it quickly. I like the half and half idea. That's a good one. If someone's watching this and goes on Survivor, please try it. So there, this isn't like a particularly exciting challenge because it's a balanced one. But Tessa wins immunity. We've been talking about Tessa for a while. About damn pulls it off. Beats Lockie and Henry. So I thought that was really nice. We'd been kind of commending her for a while. So it was nice to see her actually pull it off.
2 boys with an advantage as well.
2 boys with an advantage. That's a really good point. What did you think of that advantage? Do you think it was helpful? What was it, 30 seconds counted?
I think it was helpful. But I think Luke was right. He wasted it at the first stage because the first stage is always the easiest. You keep it like I would have saved it either for the next one or for the one that Peter did.
Yeah, I think because the first one is never going to be that hard. I think like especially if you get through that first one and you can kind of gauge how well you're going to do. I think he was
exactly. Yeah. So if you fall on the first one, you were going to fall regardless. So I save it.
Definitely. So this is my favorite part of the episode here. They get back. We have 2 groups who want the same thing, but haven't been able to talk about it really. And it is downpour raining. I love this. I absolutely love that they can't strategize. I think that makes for such a cool dynamic. And we really don't get it that much.
Yeah. It's a lot of like just looking at them and mouthing words and
side-eyeing the person you want to get rid of.
And then Tess and Pete just go off in the rain into the woods with each other and they're like, so it's Henry.
They're like bouncing and like jumping side to side like the whole time. I thought that was so funny. That was such a good touch. And I think that's smart, especially for both of them. It's way sketchier if like Sarah and Luke go and do that. But Tessa and Pete on the surface level are the 2 who should be going home. So in my mind, I think they're doing the right thing where they have to start the dominoes and
cause the paranoia.
Because people are already not going to work with them anyway. So I think you got to start that, which is the right thing to do because then Lockie and Henry start to follow them.
Yes. And then they're just like, oh, you guys want to do a plan to get out? Who are they going to target? Sarah?
So Lockie tells Pete that it's Pete and Pete's like, yeah, I know.
Okay.
And then tells Tessa that he knows that she wants to get him out. And she's like, oh yeah, Lockie, like you're the one, like you're so right. You're who I want to get rid of. And then who do they agree on? They kind of like all BS agree on somebody.
Yeah, I want to say it was Sarah.
Yeah, Sarah sounds right. But it reminded me of the Lockie and Annalise episode from our conversation last week, where like not a single one of those 4 people actually believed what they were saying. But because Lockie and Henry were like literally stalking them and just had to make a conversation topic, they were like, oh yeah, let's all work together. Oh no, we'll all hold hands and skip off into the rainbow together. So that, I think what's good about that is that then pulls 4 people out of camp. And then Michelle just like is like, Sarah, do you want to leave with me? And she's like, sure. And apologizes to her. And this is the conversation that I want a little backstory on, because Michelle and Sarah seemed to pretty much already be on the same page at this point. Even though Michelle was like apologizing to her, Sarah couldn't have interrupted her faster and said, oh no, I'm like, we're getting rid of Henry together. So I do wonder if they had talked to some extent beforehand.
Yeah, they might have been just like, hey, you want to get rid of Henry? Oh, me too. Great. Like just on the back burner. because Luke had been wanting it for forever, so they probably talked about it with Luke, and they were like, all right, we're jumping on it this week. This week is the week for Henry.
Yeah. And throughout all of this, there are consistent Henry confessionals saying that he is the king. He's killing it. Everything is going great. I'm like, this guy is going to have such a good downfall. It's going to be awesome. But again, what I love about Australian Survivor versus American Survivor is he's not actually unlikable and he's not actually mean. Like, this is the most obnoxious someone can get, and it's not that obnoxious.
Yeah, it's not that bad. Like, I'm over it, but if he was on another episode, I'd be okay.
Like, imagine Henry versus like Russell. Like, Henry is saying some of the same things. He's not calling them dumbass, but he's calling himself the king. He's saying I'm confident. I'm this, that, and the other thing.
Yeah, he says it in a different way. Maybe it's the accent.
I think the accents automatically make him seem like silly and like cute. Which you're right. I think there's probably a language barrier there on our side. And then the easiest confirmation is Luke just mouths to Jericho, it's Henry. And at this point, we are locked in with 5 votes. Sarah, Luke, Michelle, Jericho, and Pete and Tessa. So actually pretty much 6. Everybody. 6, yeah. Yeah. So they get like too many, which is awesome. So they get to the tribal council, and I think they actually do a pretty good job of hiding it, but Lockie figures out, and Lockie mouths to Henry to play his idol.
And I was like, oh God, Henry's going to play his idol. And
too confident.
Henry's just like, nah.
Yeah, he
I got this. Like,
I don't think he even responds to him.
No, he's just yep.
Yeah.
I don't need that.
Henry goes home with 6 votes. Lockie, Ziggy, Tara, and Henry, they vote Peter. So I forgot that Tara was in this episode, and Ziggy too. Neither of them are really part of this episode at all.
Right.
They end up on the bottom. Henry goes out with 6 votes, and he gets clapping. How do you feel?
He played a good game. Like, clap away.
AK got a clap too.
I mean, AK was playing a great game.
Yeah, a pre-merge clap is that's a high compliment.
Yeah. Well, all right. They would have been merged.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. Day 30 pre-merge clap.
Yeah.
So Henry the Giant, he falls. This was my favorite episode so far. I think having a really cool auction, I think having the Champagne Alliance come to life, I think the not being able to strategize in the rain, I think you put all that together. It just made for a really, really well done episode.
Yes. I agree. I liked it a lot. I thought it was great. The auction, it provided a lot of fun and like a breath of fresh air kind of.
Yeah.
From all the strategy.
It also helps that at this point we know everybody, like early on, it's like, there's an Odette, like who's Michelle? And now Michelle is like a pretty integral part.
She's here.
Oh, she's here and she's playing. She's an emotional voter, but she got rid of Henry.
So I like Michelle as her strategy is good, but just her personality just grates on me. I hate to be the person to comment on someone's voice, but sometimes all of their Australian accents do kind of blend together, and I can tell like male Australian accent and female Australian accent. But Michelle's voice like does sound very different, and she does always sound angry when she's talking, especially when she's talking about the fact that she got a spray tan and a mani-pedi before she came out, and not getting a drink.
Right. She gets very upset when she doesn't get to drink. I am appreciating her as a character. At first, I was really bothered by her, but I think she kind of knows where she stands. And I am finding her to be pretty fun and entertaining. And you know what? She fought for herself in the Ben boot. I still think she is the one who, was the genesis of this Henry boot. I don't know. She's doing stuff.
Yeah, she's doing stuff.
She's doing stuff. Hey, she's friends with your girl. Don't knock her.
I'm not knocking her, but she's also sassing Sarah behind her back. Just saying.
She does sass Sarah behind her back.
Like, that's not an Alliance member.
That's not, yes. So let's get to episode 19. And I love the way this episode opens because every single person who voted out Henry, there is a compilation of each of them trying to take credit for voting out Henry. That is one of the best editing sequences that they've done this season.
Yeah, it was great. Everyone's like, so Henry was my move. I loved my move on Henry. If it wasn't for me, Henry would still be in this game. I got him out. It's great.
Jericho, quote, slayed the Spartan. Jericho did not come to any decisions on this, but
no, Jericho was told vote this way. But
yeah,
okay,
I pile on Jericho a lot.
He's your winner pick. Don't.
I know, but he's not. Has no reason to win. So he's great. He's a great character, and I love him as a character. But he has been told to do everything so far. So Michelle leads with taking the credit, and I was like, hell yeah, Michelle! And then it just hits to every single person. I'm like, all right, I see what you're doing here. And so Ziggy realized that she is the 2, 4, 6, 9th wheel of this tribe. Everybody has a best friend. You have I only did letters. Tara and Lockie, Tessa and Pete, Luke and Jericho, Sarah and Michelle, and Ziggy is single and ready to mingle.
Yes, she approaches, I think, Tara and Michelle or Tessa and Michelle, and they're like, hey, if you guys and your buddies want to get together and I'll be your 5th, cool. But otherwise, you're like, you could use me to move your place forward in this alliance because you have the Asanga relationship of Michelle, Luke, Jericho, Sarah. They're all together, and Pete and Tess are on the bottom.
Yes. And she's pretty candid about it. And then so you see Ziggy she's kind of going to everybody. And this is what we've always complimented Ziggy about, that she is friends with everybody, but her not having a best friend is kind of being exposed right now. Especially, well, I guess now it's been 2 votes.
I think her best friend was Henry, and Henry got voted out. Right.
And Lockie has much more of a history with Tara.
Yes. Because they were always on the same side.
They were always on the same side. So like Ziggy was a part of that kind of AK alliance, which really just doesn't exist anymore. So she pulls Tessa aside to start chit-chatting, and all of a sudden Luke creates a spy shack.
Well, that's been there.
Has it?
Yeah, that started in like some of the earlier episodes. It's been there, and he set it up, but I guess he hadn't been using it for a while, so he busted it back out again and was like, all right, time to creep.
Because he loves creeping. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just creeping around on people. I'm creeping around. And there's been a lot of good cuts of him like just jumping out of the woods to talk to people. But he verbally, I think he has done this before, but him verbally saying Spy Shack, I was like, well, I wonder who you modeled your game after, because it's really on par with his.
Yeah. He's doing a good job, and he spies on them at the well.
Yeah. So he spies on them, and they're talking about getting rid of Lockie, which obviously makes sense. They also bring up Luke briefly, and Luke is not having it.
Ding, 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 ding.
Like, oh my God, my name came up. I must vote out every single person who thinks about me. So he wants Tessa gone. I don't remember if it was actually Tessa who verbalized it, but Tessa becomes the one that he decides to target.
Because she kind of is sort of trying to lead the Champagne Alliance, and Luke can't have anybody being the king. He's the king of Asanga Beach, all right?
He sure is. He sure is. Especially with Henry gone, like Luke, it's like Luke and Lockie are the top dogs, but Lockie doesn't have a lot of options right now. So Luke already is kind of in control, but I think if someone like Luke wasn't playing, I think Tessa easily like goes on to win right now. But that obviously doesn't happen.
Yeah, 2 of the people. I was pulling for Annalise. I was pulling for Tessa. Annalise is gone. Tessa's gone.
A little more quiet about your passion for Sarah, because she is in deep trouble right now. So Michelle wants Sarah gone, and I wrote down, I'm not really sure why. She didn't really verbalize it very well.
It never seemed have we ever gotten a talk with Sarah and Michelle being like, okay, we are number ones, final two directly. So they're lumping Sarah in with Michelle, but Sarah has never told anyone directly that she's deadlocked with them final two. So I feel like without that conversation, Sarah's in hot water because she already had the almost incident with Peter. Oh, I can pull Peter in, and Luke's like, why? We don't need Peter. Like, why are you trying to like form this thing with Peter? So she's just trying to do too much socially.
Yeah. And you're right there, because Luke and Jericho and Tara and Lockie, they were both with each other forever. And we probably haven't actually seen them say we'll be year 1 and 2, but they've been together for so long that it's implied. Tessa and Pete are now the only 2 survivors from their alliance. So that totally makes sense. To your point, Sarah and Michelle, they're buds, but I think they just like each other. I think Sarah knows that, like, Sarah, I think, is very happy in the position that she's in, where she can kind of be everyone's friend. And I think it's sort of just implied that the 2 of them are together.
But just the fact that she's proposing random alliances, and like, how can you keep track of that? If you're having let's do an all girls thing, the Champagne Alliance, Michelle, like, just calm yourself. How you need to keep track of like 2 alliances.
Yes.
Not 7.
7, yes. So Michelle wants Sarah gone. That's a thing that's happening. Separately, there is a shark floating around, and they're sitting there, and this is so good because they're like, that's a shark over there. Like, we should do something about it. And everyone's like, not it.
But that's a shark.
but we've been here for 3 years. Like, we're really hungry.
Yeah. And then Lockie just goes, I got this. All right, guys. I'll go to take that shark. And like, Lockie steps in the water and the shark swims away.
The shark's like, screw this, I'm out of here. But he existed just to troll Lockie.
Yeah. Lockie wanted to try and outdo Luke for who gets the biggest shark.
Yes.
So
so for the immunity challenge, we are balancing an idol on the pole, which I think this is the final immunity challenge from Samoa, if I remember correctly.
Russell versus Brett Klauser.
Yes. Infamous survivor.
Yeah.
Brett Klauser. Yeah.
Yes.
And well, it's the final 4, but
yeah,
that's what it goes down to. And either conveniently, these challenges always end up being super windy, or I guess when you hold something that high, it's always going to be that windy up there. But this is crazy, crazy windy.
Yeah, I don't know why they picked that specific location for it. Like, they could have adjusted it. If that's their challenge, just area, they could have picked a different section. But it looked like they picked right where the rocks were, where they were holding the discs.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
they may as well like do it out in the ocean.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they do purposely make it windy, because I bet you could, if it's completely flat, I bet it's actually pretty easy to keep those up for a long period of time. But shockingly to nobody, Ziggy wins this one.
Oh, and it's also the one where Joe collapses.
Correct. Yes. That's another one. Sadly, nothing exciting happened here. It wasn't not exciting, but Ziggy wins. The sun rises and sets. Which is good, because I don't think Ziggy's particularly in trouble, but I think she does need to regain her footing, especially after making a really big move, even though she does still have an idol, ?
Does still have an idol, yes.
But again, she's looking to be in a really good position right now.
Yes. That she's in a good position, but she keeps winning immunities. The next time she doesn't win immunity, she's gonna be in trouble.
Yeah. But she has to
sniff out. She has to sniff out to see if she for sure is getting the vote, so she doesn't waste the idol either.
Right. Because the good thing is, people think that that's her big thing. Ryan Chan hits us with $5. Can't wait to see responses to the final 8 reward challenge next week. It's the most low budget challenge, but the best challenge of the season. That's pretty interesting that he said it was low budget, considering that the past few challenges have been pieces of wood.
I think I've been spoiled on what the challenge is, not who wins it.
Okay. I don't want to know.
Okay.
I also need to do that thing in about 10 minutes when we finish this up that I did not watch, the next up on Survivor. So maybe that is our hint.
It is not.
Right.
But
so Tessa and Pete go to Tara and Lockie. They offer up Sarah. Everyone's like, all right, that sounds good. But that obviously doesn't actually happen.
Yeah. You better not touch Sarah. Like, no.
No. Yeah, I will quit this podcast if Sarah goes home.
Yeah.
Yeah, accepting applications for a new co-host. Sarah gets
Don't you dare.
But it's fine because Sarah's going to win.
Of course, totally. She's not getting like risen up to just fall. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Yeah, definitely don't do what I did with Annalise and Jericho because that didn't work out for me. One of them didn't work out. There's always a chance.
Jericho could win this thing. Don't count him out.
Jericho could. So what Tessa actually wants to do, she wants to split the votes between Tara and Lockie. And this is where it starts to get confusing because the way that this split vote goes, I call it a double vote split. What did you call it, McKenna?
Oh, it's a plurality vote?
A plurality vote. Can you explain to the class what a plurality vote is?
So there's no majority vote because the majority is just broken up. So it's a bunch of like random people grouped voting together. So you had a 3-2-2-2-2. There was no majority vote.
Correct. So that's sort of our first layer. We want to split votes between Tara and Lockie. Mm-hmm. Luke, and this is presumed to be the entire Champagne Alliance is doing this, where girls vote one way, boys vote the other way. Luke has his own plan to hit Tessa from within the Champagne Alliance. It would be so Luke and Jericho, they then go to Sarah. I wrote that they bombarded her. I think they just like absolutely like blasted her with like from two different angles. Which is like, oh my God, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna vote Tessa. And she's
don't tell Michelle.
I never why am I here? And she is not. I wrote down that Sarah is not super enthusiastic about this, but she is the one who has to be the one to do this to make it happen.
She says in her final words, or not final words, in her confessional, being this move could be really bad for me, but we'll see. God.
Yeah.
The fact that they actually said her confessional, I'm that's gonna mean something. That's gonna
I don't know which way it means, but it's they're winking at me. I just don't know why they're winking at me.
Yeah. And then Lockie, Tara, and I guess presumably Ziggy want to get Tessa and Peter on their side to vote Sarah out.
Correct. And we don't really get much from Ziggy or Lockie on this. So that's sort of what tips me off that this is going to work out for the Luke, Jericho, Sarah thing, because they are getting a lot of attention. And I think because I am a little confused, I think they needed to make it very clear that those three are the reason that Tessa ends up going home.
Right.
So go to Tribal Council, and I want your thoughts on this. Henry puts on his immunity necklace. Or his immunity idol as a necklace.
What I would have done was just walked in with it. I wouldn't have been I'm going to sit here and put it on. That's a little weird. I would have just walked in and been you got me, guys. You got me.
But he's no, look at this hot bling I got, which means nothing because I have
got voted out.
Killed. Correct. Yes. I just thought that was odd. And I think he was being funny, but again, I don't hear Australian accents very often, and sarcasm is not translating well for me for some reason. So we get the way that these votes end up falling. Lockie gets 2 votes. Tara gets 2 votes. So this is the part of the Champagne Alliance that is splitting between them. Sarah gets 2 votes. And then Tessa gets 3 votes, and Tessa goes home with 1 more vote than 3 other people.
Yes, you have Luke, Sarah, Jericho vote Tessa. Locke and Tara vote Sarah. Pete and Ziggy vote Lockie, and Tessa and Michelle vote Tara.
It is really impressive that at this point in the game, nobody is on each other's side. And I really like this kind of vote because we don't see this very often.
It was great. I loved this vote.
And it totally sucks because I loved Tessa. Couldn't stand her at the beginning. Like, she has just such a good rise. She wins immunity. She like holds her own. I think Tessa has played a really great game. But it's just a really fun vote because there is no alliance. But I think what I'm liking now that I'm saying it out loud is they're not talking about being in a voting block, or they're not talking about being in a fluid trust cluster. Like, they just do this, and that's just like the baseline way that they play. And I really like that. There's not a single person here who like truly believes in being in a concrete alliance until the final three right now. And I think that's really nice because they're not talking about it. The word resume hasn't come up once.
It's great. Oh my gosh. I like that they're just playing and doing what they need to do, playing and not worried about, oh my gosh, if I get to the end, what do I have behind me? I need to make this big move. And then the big move is what? They're making the moves when they feel they need to make them, not based on a resume.
It's really nice, and it's been really refreshing. Despite the fact that two people got voted out and one of which is still in the game, I get why this season is living up to the hype.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what to expect for next week's episode?
Michelle. We best expect Michelle.
Excellent. And a low budget but amazing reward challenge, allegedly.
Right. Yeah, Michelle is going to be on a warpath. I've been working with Luke, Sarah, and Jericho all the time, and they did not include her on this vote.
And she does not like to not be included, as evidenced by like 3 people she's voted out.
Right. So she's going to be on a warpath. She also doesn't like Sarah at the moment. She wants her out. So Sarah backstabbed her, plus Michelle wants her out. So it's not looking too good for my winner pick. But
I think she's okay. I think to your point that you made earlier on, Michelle personally doesn't have a ton of pull. I think Sarah does have a lot more pull, but we are kind of getting to that point in the game where there's not a lot of wiggle room left. And I think Sarah and Ziggy are the 2 people who are like clearly floating around and playing a good game.
Right. These next 3 votes are where I predicted Sarah to go out is 876.
Yeah.
So her time is coming soon, whether it be this week or next week.
I just can't believe we're at 8 people left.
Yeah.
I can't believe we did it.
Yeah, almost. We're not there yet.
Yeah. Well, what else do you have on these 2 episodes? That was really all I got. I think that option episode, the Henry Voda, was the best episode of the season so far.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. This is a good Australian Survivor is pretty good. I dig it.
Pretty darn good. I was always that person who was like, why are all these people tweeting about Australian Survivor? Why is everyone posting on Reddit about Australian Survivor? I totally get it. It's been really good, and I'm excited to probably watch more of these.
Yes. I've been holding back. A bunch of my friends have like watched all of them, and I'm like, I want to watch with you, but I can't because I don't want spoilers for this one. Right. So I've just been watching, and I've wanted to binge this season, but I'm like, no, because I'm going to spoil it for the next podcast.
Yes,
so I've been just watching the 2 episodes a week, and I'm ready to watch more. It
has been very hard to not be spoiled on this.
Yeah.
But
I haven't been, so
I haven't been, and I want to thank our, we averaged moving to the 7:00 hour really did wonders for our viewership. We went from like 10 viewers to like high 20s, so we might keep doing it, which is woo. Watching a season that's 4 years old, so it makes total sense. I want to thank you guys for not spoiling us. You're probably laughing at us because we're probably saying,
I read in the comments.
Michelle wins like 90-0. Probably.
No. Kieran did decide to spoil me on that Sarah's not single. She's not single right now. She doesn't know I exist.
I'd honestly rather know the winner than to know that Sarah's not single.
Yeah, listen, she's not single for right now. She doesn't know I exist yet. Once she does, it'll be a different story.
Not with that attitude. She's not single. McKenna, what else do we have going on our channel?
Oh, we've got Wednesdays, the challenge, John and Phil. This week, I believe they're also having a guest in Annabelle. She did an Amazing Race episode in the past. She also competed in our Jeopardy game along with Andy and Kyle, and that will be going on the channel at some point this week. They competed this weekend, and we have a winner. So look out for that. And I will say it's not a runaway train, so it'll be intense.
It's going to be fun, especially watching some Jeopardy too. I think that's not only timely, but that always makes for a pretty fun way to play. So become a patron, follow us on social media. You guys know all the fun stuff, and have a wonderful week. We'll be back next week recapping the 20th and 21st episodes of Australian Survivor Season 2. Have a good night.
Let's go.
Everybody. It's so fun.